Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, August 10th. That's right. It is CPI morning. What does that mean? We're looking at the Consumer Price Index. Why is this important? Because this is a measure of inflation. Now, one of the things I will warn you about, or not warn you about, just kind of, I guess, maybe educate you. This isn't as though they said, okay, yesterday they're going to cut off the data and now we get it today. That's not how it works. So it is lagging a couple of weeks before we see it. But this will be the July inflation, and we are looking for it to be a lower number than what we saw last month in July for the June numbers. I know it sounds a little confusing, but anyway, that's what we're looking for. So some things happened in there, even right before we got the July report for June numbers. We saw the administration come out and saying, well, you know, we know it's probably going to be bad, but it's not taking into account XYZ, which is true because it's lagging. It's actually lagging more than it probably needs to be, given all of our technology where we really could just, you know, cut the tape off, put it all in, and run it the next day, right? We could. But anyway, that's not how it works. It is lagging. It's lagging by a few weeks. And what we have seen over the last month and a half is things like energy and some food prices come back down. Well, that all goes into inflation. And so I think it would almost be natural that we do see a decrease in the number. But here's the thing. If it comes in maybe right in line with estimates, I think we'll be okay. Like the day will be okay. The market will say, whew, okay, we're good. We don't have to do, we're happy with this. If it comes in hotter than expected, so we're looking at there's a range there of what they think it's going to be. If it comes in up and over or maybe even hits a 10% or something like that, I don't think it will. But if it does, I think the market is going to go, oh, poop, because we did not expect that. And I think it will really send our market tumbling. However, if we come in a bit cooler than expected, well, this is where things could get really interesting. Will we automatically rally? I think the market will be happy with that, but we also have to kind of look at now, how is that interpreted by the Fed? Last week, we saw a huge numbers report. Oh my gosh. And good news was bad news, pretty much. It seemed like once we got that number, everybody's like, well, okay, well, now what? We didn't see that coming. And I don't really know how they get these things so wrong sometimes, but, you know, whatever. But what it did do is it shows that we have this incredibly strong labor report, which throws into question, are we actually in a recession? And I would tend to say, I think it's interesting that we look at it like it has to be all or nothing, you know, whereas we have recessionary areas. Okay, you get, if you're, I don't know, I think you have to look at the big picture. Stand back and look at just the data, right? So don't pay attention to any of the analyst comments. You can look at it and you can be like, yeah, when I go to the grocery store, it does cost me more than it did last year. But it cost me a little bit less than it did last month. And I always use something really easy. I use milk. That is when I go to the store, are we still over $4 a gallon? We were up to like $4.16 here. And I live in the South where luckily, our prices are a little bit better than they would be, you know, maybe if you're in one of the larger urban areas. But 416 was about the peak, and we are now below 4. Like when it went from 409 to 406, I mean, I'm not kidding. I was jumping for joy, right? It's a little thing now, but not everything is like that, right? So we have a lot of agricultural issues. We have, especially with the Ukraine-Russian war, because so much grain actually comes out of that area. So we've seen this tightening all across the market, and that affects a lot of things. Energy is another really big factor, because energy, we think of it as putting gas in our car or public transportation or something, but energy goes into everything. Energy goes into making your products, distributing your products, getting them to the shelf, right? So energy isn't, again, it's not just this little small facet. It has its tentacles kind of everywhere. And so now that we're starting to see that come down a little bit, kind of just, you know, relax a little bit, we should see a better CPI number. Now, I will say with energy, I think we'll probably start seeing a creep back up, especially next month. I would be very cautious on that because Russia has liquid natural gas. They have taken the Nord Stream 2 pipeline down to just 20%. And the actual oil that comes out of Russia, one of the larger pipelines, they have gone ahead and cut that down as well. And I think they're going to try and freeze people out. It sounds terrible. It's cruel. I can't believe what humans do to each other. But they get into their winter period much earlier than most of us here in the United States. And it is bitter cold. And so, freeze them out by, they have to, there's an embargo that will go in effect in early December. And so they had this time to prepare. It's only a few months, but they had some time to prepare and maybe do some oil storage or whatever. Well, now that's actually getting even more expensive to be able to do it, and they aren't getting as much oil. So anyway, that's a whole different topic. We're here really to talk about CPI and what we're going to do. So I'm not putting out any specific plays today because we need to see this number come out, and it will come out in, here in just a little bit. So in about 20 minutes or so, and we'll see where the market goes from there. If we rally, so here's the thing, and we see this a lot as well, the market will get news and it will react one way or the other, and then the market settles in, and about an hour later we'll go in the opposite direction. So we could certainly see that. So I want to make you aware of that. Going into these numbers, we're seeing a little bit of green. Here we are on the S&P futures chart, and you can see this was our trend line here from just the last few days. I took this off of an hourly chart, and we're using it here to bounce this morning. I will blow this up just a little bit here for you. We're using it to bounce. At 34 is still our sticky spot here on the ES. We're going to look for this to move on up, and NQ. Here we go. And here is the NASDAQ. Now it is red going into the session. If we get a number that the market really likes, I would look here in the NASDAQ, whether you do it through the QQQs or whatever. I would look into these areas for some nice plays. We've seen some really nice strength in the IWM, but I would suspect that maybe we'll rotate right back over here into the Qs. The Qs have done really well over the last few weeks, and just this week said we're putting a pause on it because now we get this data out, and then the next thing, right, we're going to get this data out, and in the very next breath, all those analysts are going to come in and say, well, what's the Fed going to do about it? So now we get to listen to that. And I will tell you, at the end of the day, it does not matter who's right and who's wrong. Follow the price action because the market is forward-looking. And all of these analysts, and they're looking backwards at the data to go forward. And the market just, I'd say it's kind of its own little beast. So pay attention to that price action, and we will watch for some plays, probably more so in tech if we move up. If we start to move back down, maybe look at some potentially consumer staples, and we will just be a little bit more protective in the aftermath of the news. Oil is still here under the 50. It tested it early this morning, but definitely lower. And this is Brent crude sitting right there. It's still just a smidge below the 50. So we'll watch and see if we do get that reversal back up in here, especially over the next month. Okay, that is it. If you need anything, I'm right here. Heather C at GivingTreeTrading.com, and I look forward to watching the fireworks with you.